All right, what is up, guys? Wednesday LINC Live. Thomas Mott, Josh Davis. We do it every single Wednesday here at 7 p.m. And every single week, I think we're surprised by everything going on in the National Football League, more specifically the Philadelphia Eagles. And this week is very similar. I mean, we got a lot of draft stuff to go ahead and get into. There's some free agency things that are kind of hovering around. Josh, we'll get the stage going in a second. First off, how are you tonight?
Doing great. I am doing awesome. And like you say, yeah, so much more news to cover and talk about. It's every single week. Nothing really surprises you, I guess, at this point. This time of year, there's always rumors and buzz and everything else. But yeah, it's like there's always something to cover. And, can't wait to get into the Jalen versus Bijan and all the other topics that we're going to cover as well.
We'll definitely start there. There's also some mock draft stuff that's going on right now. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us in the chat. I see Kylie Johnson is jumping in here. Lion Fighter is asking what time we're starting. We're starting now. Clarence Worley, always entertaining people. A lot of our usual followers are in. If you guys are joining us, hit the like button. We'll go ahead and get started. And I think we start right where the thumbnail begins, and that is this whole massive debate about number 10 overall. And this is natural. It happens every single year. Some Eagle fans want this guy. Some Eagle fans want that guy. But it does feel like, Josh, if all the cards are laid out there and Bijan Robinson and Jalen Carter are both there at 10, if you polled 99% of Eagle fans, they would want one of those two players. I think right now it's safe. There are some people that would say, no, I want Tyree Wilson. There are some people that would say, no, I want Brian Branch or Christian Gonzalez or, insert your other player. But really, if you dig deep down into both of our comment sections, they say they want Bijan or Jalen Carter. And that's the debate tonight because I had the opportunity in my mock draft today, and I took
I
Jalen
saw that.
Carter. You're a big Bijan Robinson fan. It's going to be very interesting.
It really is. And I saw that. I was like, okay, you're asking, is this the perfect draft ever? And my comment to that was, but what about Bijan?
I
So
know.
yes, it's
I know.
everybody. That's the comment. That's the big argument. Who's it going to be? If Jalen's available there at 10, do you take Jalen Carter? Do you take Bijan Robinson? Yes, like you mentioned, there's other names that you could throw out there. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think you would be surprised either if Howie ended up picking a guy like a Peter Skoronsky or something like that. But that's not the popular pick. I mean, everybody's doing these mock drafts, and from everyone that I've seen on Twitter and social medias that everyone's posting it's pretty much Jalen Carter or Bijan Robinson. You even posted a poll on your community page, and that blew up. The same deal. But the last time I checked, I mean, it was just about 50-50. I don't know where that thing ended, but it was like maybe 51% Jalen Carter, 49% Bijan Robinson. So that continues to be the argument. And it's not surprising, but I don't know. Did it change a little bit? Or
Well, I was trying to pull up on my computer, but I'm not logged into an account, so I can pull it up on my phone right now. If you guys don't know what he's talking about, it's the community tab of my channel. I did a poll, and it's Bijan Robinson versus Jalen Carter. And right now, it has 3.1 thousand votes. Carter's taken a little bit of a lead, 54% Jalen Carter, 46% Bijan Robinson, which is interesting because if you read the comment section of both of our shows, they would tell you they want Bijan Robinson more than Jalen Carter. So maybe people actually, when they're faced with this debate of Carter versus Bijan, they go, I think we're going to go ahead and take Jalen Carter. So it's interesting. You mentioned my mock draft, just so we have something to throw up onto the screen right here. Here was my mock draft from earlier today. This was using the Draft Network, and so it's like an actual fantasy draft, I guess, website where you can pick to be the Eagles, and everybody else goes ahead and auto drafts, but it drafts pretty accurately. I went Carter 1, Gibbs 2, Antonio Johnson 3. This to me would be a dream scenario for Philadelphia if you didn't get Bijan Robinson. My thought process on not taking Bijan at 10 was the simple fact that Gibbs would probably be there at 30. My big takeaway from this is that after the third round, not a lot of big name wide receivers that make a ton of sense. I know Marvin Mims from Oklahoma is a name people love. He was gone early, so wide receiver is not going to be, I would say, as strong later on. I will say, though, for the pro-Bijan crowd, the anti-Bijan crowd, the Jahmyr Gibbs crowd, there are a ton of running backs based on this mock draft simulator in the later rounds of the draft. Tank Bigsby was there. The UCLA running back was there. The guy from Texas A&M. Like, I could have had a really good running back in round 3 if you wanted to go with 30, taking a better safety or taking another pass rusher like Kalijah Kancey, who was available in my mock draft. So this is, it's a mock draft. It is what it is. But it was amazing to me the talent that was still available at 30 and the talent that was there in round 2, and also the mock trades I was offered that I really had a hard time turning down, which I'll ask everyone in the chat first off, if you were offered, because I was offered this in my show today, Carolina, 39 overall, and next year's second round draft pick for 30, would you do it? What do you think? So you move back 9 spots and get a second next year.
Yeah. I possibly. It,
right?
it really all comes down to, I guess, who's obviously on the board. I mean, if
That's
someone's
true.
slipping or falling, like the first one that comes to mind every single time for me is a Kalijah Cansey. So it's like
Yeah.
if he's still available there, then probably not. But if you're taking a look at the board and saying, yeah, there's some other options, I might be able to trade back and get, a couple different guys. If there's not someone at the top of your board that you're saying, hey, we have to take him now, then yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. You stockpile, you already have so many more picks next year anyway.
True.
But if you could do that stockpile even more, I mean, I think next year's draft will be even more explosive because Howie's going to say, hey, we've got all these picks. We could trade up. We could trade back. We could trade for just players on the market in general. So I don't know. It maybe doesn't answer your question directly, but it kind of just depends on who's available or who's not.
I want to get more to this Jalen Carter versus Bijan Robinson. I want to read comments here first, though. Let's get to our first super chat of the night. That's Lion Fighter X. Is there a scenario where JC and BR are both gone by 10? If so, who do we take? This is a great question. Also, first off, we always mention it. The first person that does it kind of springs us into this board here. He, of course, Lion Fighters. I don't know if he's entered yet, but he has 5 entries into our first round draft pick giveaway. Am I right on that?
5. Yep.
Okay, there you go. So 5 entries. If you've not seen what we're doing here, Josh and I are giving away whoever the first round draft picks jersey is on the night of the draft. We're going to be live for a Thursday LINC live because it'll be Thursday night. And if you do any super chat, get you an entry. So $5 is 5 entries, $100 is 100 entries, whatever it is. And it accumulates until draft night. Put your name into a random name generator. We're going to draw somebody. And again, all you got to do is do a $1 super chat or any super chat and be subscribed to both of our channels. So we're going to go through the list of people that have done that in a little bit and where we're at in terms of who's, of course, has the most entries. But first entry of the night, Line Fighter X with the $5 super chat. And a really good question here. Let's just be real. Let's say Jalen Carter and Bijan Robinson are both gone. First off, I'll say unlikely, but he's saying, let's say. I think very likely one of them is gone. Probably not Bijan. Bijan's backboard seemingly is Philadelphia because Atlanta doesn't need a running back. The Lions don't need a running back. The Bears really don't need a running back. I mean, you start looking at these teams that would take Bijan. We're kind of the backstop. Whereas Jalen Carter, there are teams. The Bears could take Jalen Carter, get a visit with them. The Lions could take Jalen Carter. Their pass rush was terrible last year. Like, there are obviously options there. But if they're both gone, Josh, answer the question. Who would you take?
Well, I guess I need to see the board, quite honestly. So again, to answer your question, like who's available? I mean,
let's say Tyree Wilson's gone too. Okay, because that's the obvious.
That's the other, yeah, right. That's the other obvious one. Man, it's a tough question. I would say, I know Miles Murphy showed out in his pro day, so that's a name that's possibly moving up. I don't know. I'd really just have to see it, who's available, what my options are. But I'd almost consider trading back because the names that I keep hearing are. I think Howie could take a Peter Skoronski. So if it's Howie in that spot, I don't know that he would trade back. But if it's me and Bijan and Jalen, who I think are the top 2 targets, are not there, then I would seriously be saying, hey, you know what? Let's trade back then, because I'd have my eyes on a Kalijah Cansey, but you don't want to take him at a 10. I know Joey Porter visited with the Eagles, so maybe they're considering him. But someone brought up the argument of Joey Porter, it would be a reach at 10, and he's not going to be available by 30. So maybe this is Howie already preparing for, we're going to possibly trade back, and then you draft him at a position like that. But I don't know. Like you say, if you take away those 2, I would probably be inclined to say, well, let me just trade back. Let me get another pick because we're already slim on it anyway in this year's draft.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. I don't think you take corner. We could get into that argument, but I don't think 10 is the spot where you take a corner. You might have a chance at a Devin Witherspoon or a Christian Gonzalez if one of those 2 didn't get taken in the top 10. But I don't know. I did a show about, the unlikelihood of corners and how their miss rates. Corner is the highest position, or I guess the highest percentage of a position missed in the first round since 2000. So there was a great analytics breakdown of it, but basically saying if a guy ends up playing worth about 60% or the top 60% of the league where they drafted in the first round, a cornerback missed 65% of the time, top position.
Okay, I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed it was like wide receiver or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would answer and say they probably trade back too. Cool Reigns in the chat just said trade back. So did Line Fighters. He said trade back as well. Although, like you said, Skoronski is starting to really become the pick that I'm dreading, but kind of expecting. It feels like the anticlimactic thing is for Howie Roseman to take Peter Skoronski. I mean, Northwestern creates a lot of good offensive linemen. Apparently, he can play up and down the offensive line. He can compete for the guard spot. I don't want to poo-poo the pick because I know 3 years from now, he'll be like an all-pro and he'll be one of the best offensive linemen. It'll be like drafting Lane Johnson. And no one, regrets drafting Lane Johnson. But I'm starting to think that if you don't have Carter and you don't have Bijan and you decide not to go with either of them, if they are there, I think they go with Skoronski or trade back, like you just said. Let's see some questions here. Tim Perkins says Bijan Robinson. Jordan says Carter when debating those 2. Let me see here. There people are talking to each other in the chat. I would trade back. Yeah, trade back. We've seen that one. Tyler Walsh is getting into, I know he's obviously donated before and gotten into the jersey entry, but 5 more for Tyler here with that super chat. Obviously, $5 is 5 entries. I think Tyler, is he leading the race for the jersey giveaway?
He is leading the race. That's 105 entries for Tyler.
There you go, Tyler. Tyler is leading the race, although it's randomly drawn. So just because you have more entries doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win. So Tyler, congrats. He said, cheers to a good live today. Much love, guys. Tyler, we always appreciate
that.
you. Hopefully we're going to have a good live today as well. We get you entered in for 5. After that, though, I mean, it feels like a trade back to 15, a trade back to 17.
Probably.
It could be really interesting. Corner, though, Joey Porter Jr. to me would be very interesting because I just don't know if you need to spend your first-round draft pick on a player who very clearly will not see the football field that much. I mean, unless you're going to put Porter at the slot or in the nickel cornerback spot, when's he going to play? I mean, dime packages, but you're still playing dime in the slot. And can he play in the slot is a question mark. And the same goes for Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon. And we were all for them until obviously re-signing both Slay and Bradbury. It just doesn't make sense for me to draft any of those 2 guys. It feels like Peter Skoronski, where you're going to draft somebody to sit when you have a football team that's ready to win right now. If the Eagles won 8 games last year, you'd say, okay, get the best player at the best position. But the Eagles won 14 games last year, plus a bunch in the postseason. They're not multiple pieces away. They already have a Super Bowl roster, and adding an extra starter piece can only get better and better. So, I don't know. It'd be fascinating. It'd be very fascinating.
Yep. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens. Obviously, it's crazy that we're like 3 weeks away. It's unbelievable to say that. But I feel like we're going to get a trade back or trade up scenario, whether that's at 10 or 30. I can't see how he's sitting there at 10 and 30, not making any moves. As we know, he loves to trade in the draft. So I'm kind of preparing myself for that. But yeah, it's a great question. Do you take Bijan? Do you take Jalen Carter? If neither are available at 10, what do you do? I think trade back is the most realistic scenario. But another topic I got to bring up, and I got to get your thoughts on, is the news of the agent for Jalen Carter. So Drew Rosenhaus, very well-known agent, incredible at what he does. But he came out earlier this week and said, by the way, Jalen Carter is not going to be taking any visits with teams outside the top 10. What that tells me, and Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network also kind of said, hey, this is what I'm reading in between the lines here, is that the Eagles, and it's just his educated guess, so it's not official news, but he's thinking the Eagles have basically told Jalen Carter, if you're at 10, we're taking you. And I could get behind that. I could believe that because there's so many other connections outside of just the Drew Rosenhaus connection. But you've got Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, and the Eagles have a good insight to say, hey, does he have character issues? Are we going to have problems if we were to take him? And so that may be why Jalen Carter is starting to seemingly overtake Bijan Robinson in terms of the poll that you put up and what I'm starting to see on social media. So it's not like I'm against Jalen Carter, but it's still the question of we don't know the full story. But then I think when you start seeing something like this, it's a very telling sign because, agents don't normally just say, yeah, let's not worry about, potentials of draft trading and all this other stuff. But what do you make of all that?
I thought it was weird, first of all, because you just said it. This doesn't happen. I can't think of a time that a top 10 caliber talent didn't take interviews with other people. It feels dumb. Like, if you're a quarterback, and you're Anthony Richardson, I'm not going to meet with anyone outside of the top 10. Okay, well, what happens when someone outside the top 10 wants to come get you? What happens when the Washington Commanders trade up to 2 and want to take you? It doesn't make that, to me, felt like Rosenhaus is trying to save face with Jalen Carter because he thinks Jalen Carter is going to fall dramatically in the draft, and he's trying to make sure that teams maybe get a little scared and possibly trade up to get him or stay put like the Eagles could at number 10 and grab him. Other thing is, who has he met with? He's met with Philly. He's met with the Bears. Has he met with any other top 10 teams? Has he had a Detroit official visit? I haven't seen anything about it.
Yeah, no.
Right?
I'm sure he's probably going to, but I think it's just the 2 so far. So I don't know. I'm with you. It's surprising that he hasn't. I would have assumed that he would have, but I feel like it's more of a Drew Rosenhaus has an assurity because I don't know why else you'd go out there and say publicly, he's not taking any more meetings, because if you're not, and you're not sure, I mean, I don't know, it's just a speculation game, obviously. But if I'm an agent, like, I don't put that out there to put any more negative doubt in teams' minds. Going, oh, what, Jalen thinks he's the best, and we got all these other potential character issues, but then he's going to say, nah, I'm good. I'm only going to go with the top 10. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a certainty that Drew Rosenhaus has because it feels incredibly risky otherwise.
Wasn't it Patrick Mahomes that was assured that he was going to be drafted by like the Bears or something? I think Mahomes was
I think
assured. I
so.
saw
I think
something
he
like
was.
they was promised like the Bears, we will take you, and then the Bears didn't take him. They went up and got Mitch Trubisky. So these are sureties for me. If I was a draft player, I'd be like, that sounds great, and secretly I'd be like, I am not going to sit there and start buying my Eagles gear, guaranteeing.
Yeah.
I just said that they might be scared of him falling back in the draft. I still think I'd be shocked if he does fall back in the draft. If he truly falls past 10, if the Eagles sit there at 10 and they don't take Jalen Carter, that would be very, very wild to me. And that would indicate that there's some craziness going on. Unless you remember Nakobe Dean last year, and Nakobe Dean has been on multiple podcasts recently in the past month, basically saying there was nothing wrong with me. There was no injury concern. There was no off the field concern. Somebody somewhere leaked that I was, injured, and he fell to the 3rd round, which is nuts to me. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. Very interesting.
You'd never know with all the speculation, but yeah, I agree. I think that, not to take us too far off, but if you want to get into the Nakobe Dean argument, like, I think that's an incredible thing. Not only was it a great steal for the Eagles to get him last year, but this season is set up for him to, he has to shine. He's going to step into into the limelight really and have that starting role. But I think you're in for a huge surprise for anyone who may be doubting or like, I don't know if he's going to have a great. I think he's going to be fantastic because he has a chip on his shoulder. He's had it for a long time. And like you mentioned, the podcast and the interviews that he's gone on, you can tell this guy has something to prove.
He's not happy about it.
No.
Yeah, the chip on the shoulder is massive. And the fact that you're not paying him first-year linebacker money, which is what people thought you were going to have to pay him, no extra fifth-year option. It's really good stuff. Let's go to the comments here. Obviously, get your comments in. We're going to obviously try and answer as many as possible. Swift Matty J says, I've seen Jackson Smith and Jiba for us at 10. Please agree with me. That's the last thing we would want. I saw Jackson Smith and Jiba as the 3rd-ranked player on Elliott Shore Park's Twitter or tweet like 3 days ago. I think he had Carter, Bijan, Jackson Smith, and Jiba, which is interesting. You talk about positions of need. Now, I get the idea that Smith and Jiba is probably the best receiver in this draft. There are arguments there. Quentin Jefferson, or the guy from TCU, guy from USC. There are some good ones here, but I think Smith and Jiba is an absolute freak of nature. He's really good. I just, at 10, that could be a trade back to 18 because you don't like what you have at 10 and then take the best player available, and it happens to be him. Jackson Smith and Jiba at 10 to me would be very bizarre. Now, it'd be like Bijan. It'd be fun. I wouldn't hate it. We'd all be watching, but come on. There's got to be. I'd rather have Lucas Van Ness at number 10 than Jackson Smith and Jiba just for a position of need. And I'm not a big Van Ness fan.
Yeah, I agree. No, I don't think that you really have, and you can make the argument, well, Bijan Robinson would be a luxury pick, but I just don't know that you have a luxury pick of saying I'm going to take a wide receiver 3 because, like we've mentioned, depending on who you even get there, it's almost like a wide receiver 4 because you've got Goddard in the mix, and you could throw him as kind of the wide receiver 3, especially with how often he's used. I know there's always injuries, and you got to have backup plans. It never hurts to get an extra weapon, but it feels like an extreme luxury. Don't get me wrong; it would be fantastic to see him in this offense. And you add it with Jalen, but yeah, I'm with you. The only way that makes sense, I think, is trading back, and then you see kind of where the chips fall. It's like, oh, hey, you know what? He's still available. We traded back. We got an extra draft pick. Okay, maybe it makes sense. Let's go ahead and grab him. But otherwise, I can't see you taking a receiver because you can get some receivers later in the rounds, or maybe you look for someone even in free agency. We've known Howie to take forever, to make decisions or to make it's not like he's going to, the offense or the roster is solidified before the draft. Like he's done this right before the season starts. So you never know what's going to happen entirely, but that timeline, I don't know, that comes into play. And I just can't see him going and solidifying, for a wide receiver 3 spot. Cause that's not a guy that's going to be on the field. Let's be honest. That's not a guy that's going to be on the field a ton. You can get a lot of three receiver sets, but the offense is not going to be with the RPO, the ground and pound, the offensive line, like wear teams out. I don't think you draft that and go, hey, let's shift things up and try to play 3 receiver sets all day long. So I don't know. I think risk reward is not really worth it there.
Quez Watkins had 20 some catches last year, 40 some targets. At most you're getting 50 targets. How many targets do you want to take away from Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, and Dallas Goddard? It's just a question you got to ask yourself with a first round draft pick.
And everybody's got to eat. So
everybody has to eat because receivers
get
very unhappy.
But
they get very unhappy when they don't eat. Very unhappy. Okay, let's go through some of the comments here. There's a bunch. I'm okay with Witherspoon or Gonzalez at 10. They're great players. I think Gonzalez is fantastic. He's one of the best corners to come out in a very long time. But again, when's he going to play, right? When is he going to be actually on the football field? It's literally Jackson Smith and Jiba all over again. Take what Josh just said and copy paste with Christian Gonzalez. Both great players. They're both starters. They're not going to start, and that's a problem. Porter at 30 would be nice. Him and Bijan. I think that's not a bad idea. That's fine.
If he's still available.
86
Yep.
Blackberry Whites. Side note, I can't believe Thomas passed on Lucas Van Ness at 30 in his mock draft. LOL. I thought about it, but if you're getting Jalen Carter, do you need to get another defensive lineman in round 1? I feel like Philadelphia could get, as long as they get one this draft in, the first 3 picks, and AK 2 first-rounders and then the second-round draft pick, they're fine. You don't need a second. They're going to have so many draft picks next year, they can basically take any pass rusher they want outside of the top 10 because they're going to be sitting hopefully 32 next year. But Van Ness at 30, it would be hard to pass on, but it's not a necessity if you get Jalen Carter because Carter is a pass-rushing defensive tackle who is going to get plenty of pressures on that defensive line.
Yep. And there's other names that we can target, and you may have seen, but I think this just broke a second ago, but BJ Ojulari has a visit with the Eagles, so he's another top 30 visit.
There you
talking
go.
about a pass rusher, that's not probably a first-round selection. You're talking about maybe a second-round pick, or even the Eagles trading back and acquiring multiple, so that may be a target. I think that Howie's saying, what do we do about day 2 options? So I agree, especially to, like you mentioned there, if you've got Jalen Carter, I could see it. I don't think it's impossible where, hey, you just double dip and go for the defensive line. But much like Todd McShay's draft, he released the 4.0 version. And so he had Lucas Van Ness at 10 and he had Will McDonald at 30. I didn't really like the mock draft first off, but I just don't think it's a realistic option that Howie's going to say, yeah, let's go D-line for both of the picks. I could see D-line, O-line really is where I see this thing, whether it's picking O-line first and then a D-line, or you flip it. If I'm going to say that's what Howie's going to do, that would be where my money is. But again, I always hope that it's Bijan Robinson. So we're holding out hope that actually happens.
Everybody watching, 97 people right now, we appreciate you. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Be nice to get to 97. I'll do a shameless plug. My birthday is tomorrow. I want likes for my birthday. Give a thumbs up for my birthday. That's what I want. That's all I want. I want to get to the same amount of likes as viewers. That's what I would like for my birthday. Give a thumbs up for the show. Jalen Carter will be a star, says Vinny. Ryan has the unpopular take here, but maybe it's the smarter one. I don't know. He says, get Skoronski, build the future of this line on the backs of Skoronski. Dickerson and Mailata will be great for years. The only reason you get Skoronski is if you think Lane Johnson plays one more year, but his contract extension says he's going to play at least 2 more years. And so we're talking about Andre Dillard all over again. Now, at the time, they drafted Andre Dillard to be the starter. There was no Jordan Mailata, and then Mailata came along. But are you going to let Skoronski at 10 sit for 2 years? And if the argument is, well, what about Cam Jurgens? Cam's probably going to play right guard. He at least has a whole NFL offseason, a whole NFL season practicing at right guard, according to reports, because they kind of expected this to happen. Is Skoronski going to beat him out when he was a tackle? I know he played other positions, but a tackle mainly at Northwestern? I don't buy it. So you got to take somebody that really wouldn't play much at 10 and who might not play much for a couple of years. That's my problem with Skoronski. Not that he's a bad player, just my problem with it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll play devil's advocate here. And I know we've got some people in the comments saying, Skoronski be a day 1 starter, right guard day 1 starter, Stoney Hawks mentioning that. Like, that's the possibility. And I think the only way that you might say, well, wait a minute, are there things that we're not quite seeing that maybe a bigger storyline here? What if the Eagles are not as confident in Cam Jurgens as we believe they are? Like, if they take a Peter Skoronski, does that tell you, whoa, okay, so Cam Jurgens is maybe not ready to play right guard, or they're not impressed with him enough to say, you know what, let's give him some competition, because he could actually lose that job. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. I think it's unlikely, like you mentioned from the reports and what we're hearing, because he's had a full season under his belt to kind of learn and hopefully improve and get ready to play this position. But again, draft night will be very telling, because I agree. I think if you take an offensive lineman at that spot, especially like Peter Skoronski, which all the scouts and everybody's saying he might be a better guard in the NFL than a tackle because of his arm length, and you've got some flexibility there. And obviously he could move out to tackle if you needed him to, but I don't see that happening unless maybe Cam Jurgens is as good as we thought he is.
That's a good point. That would have to be the take if they were to take him at number 10. That or Lane is leaving earlier than we think. It's one of the two. But let's hope that's not the case, because we want somebody else. Okay. Yeah. Andrea Bland always jumps in here. We always appreciate you, Andrea. 10 entries into the jersey giveaway. Andrea is really stacking up the entries the past couple of weeks. What's up, guys? Enjoying the Wednesday show as usual. Andrea, we appreciate you. Hope you're having a great Wednesday night. Andrea's got to have close to 50 entries, right? She's been...
we're at 40 now.
40 entries for Andrea into our jersey giveaway. If you're just joining us and you want to have a chance to win Bijan's jersey, Peter Skoronski's jersey. It's possible. We'd send it to you because that's how it works. The first round draft pick of the Eagles jersey could be yours. We will get to pick a random winner who is super chatted, a random donation who is super chatted during our Wednesday live shows up until night one of the NFL draft to go ahead and win that jersey. Each dollar is one entry. And Andrea, again, we appreciate you and welcome to the Wednesday show. Kyle says the trenches are more important. They are. But everyone's forgetting that our trenches are pretty darn good. I mean, you could literally start a backup player at right guard, and you're still having a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. I mean, it's still very, very popular.
Yes. And I did a show on it earlier, and I think Brendan Deeg was the one who had the tweet on it, but he's like, hey, why don't we use the cheat code that is Jeff Stoutland? And that's a great point. You don't ever necessarily have to draft or use your early draft capital to say, let's take a first round or even second rounder on an offensive lineman when you've got Jeff Stoutland who can obviously improve someone because you got a Jordan Mailata is the best case scenario. Now, you're probably not looking at it saying, yeah, we could do that with every 7th rounder, but the fact that you can look at a day 2, day 3 position or a draft position and take that guy, get him with Jeff Stoutland. He's not probably coming into play from day 1 and get him much improved. That's a very good argument to be made. When you've got the best offensive line coach in football, you use him.
I think both offensive line and wide receiver could totally be undrafted guys. You bring them in and you say, okay, compete for Cam Jurgens' spot, compete for Quez Watkins' spot. Go for it. And if they win, they win. If they lose, we're still fine. Let's see here. Happy birthday, bro, from Vinny. I appreciate that. Getting ready for tomorrow. Cool Rain says happy birthday. Wish for an Eagles Super Bowl. I will tomorrow, 100%. I have a birthday dinner my girlfriend planned out for us, so I'll be wishing for an Eagles Super Bowl for sure. Jalen Carter is not Marcus Smith 2.0. Someone just said that in the chat. We do forget that pick does exist. And the offensive lineman, the firefighter guy. Those do exist. But what are you going to do? I wouldn't take Skoronski at 10 either. Paul says Bijan all the way. Vinny with a $20 entry into the jersey giveaway here. Happy birthday. Never shave the stash. Vinny is a pro stash guy. Vinny, you got 20 more entries in here. It's a little trim, but it's not going away, baby. Come on. It's not going away. It's my birthday. I'm not going to shave it. It's not going away.
It's your birthday. Surely she can't ask you on your birthday.
No, she won't. Not a chance. Vinny, we appreciate it and welcome into, I think Vinny had entries before. We're going to double check that, but Josh has the spreadsheet, so he has it all ready for us. 116 people watching. Be sure to like. Nolan Smith available at 30. Nolan Smith was available at 29 in my mock draft today. He went to 29 with the Saints. The Saints had moved back and with some sort of weird trade. So that would be interesting. That to me is more where Nolan Smith belongs in terms of the actual, skill for what you see. I know he had a good combine, but to me, it's a 20th something round pick in the first round. But that was interesting in my mock draft where a lot of McShay and Kuipers have him going in the top 15. In mine, he went 29th. So what are you going to do? Has Philly ever drafted a linebacker in the second round? Jack Campbell from Iowa. Someone mocked Jack Campbell to us recently. Who was it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who that was, actually.
It was the first time that I had seen anybody mock a linebacker early to us. Campbell, is he starting? Is he starting over Nicholas Morrow? That's the question. Is he starting over Dean and Morrow? That I don't know. I think the second round draft pick can start.
I do too. I think I'm not opposed to Jack Campbell, but I think that this would honestly need to be next year. If you had the amount of picks that we have next year in 2024's draft, then sure, I could see it because Howie's got a lot of picks that he can work with. But the fact that we don't have as many, and like we've said many times, he doesn't value the linebacker position. I think he's probably going to say, hey, you know what? We've got some guys that we want to see. Like, we're going to compete for that position, but we don't need to use a second round pick, especially when we can use it on other positions.
Yeah.
And he's going to have, Nakobe Dean is solidified. And who's that number 2? Is it going to be a Nick Morrow? Is it going to be a Davion Taylor? Is it going to be, throw in and insert other name that we sign, or a Sean Bradley? Like, there's other options. And so I would lean towards right now, that's the option that's going to actually take place instead of you draft someone in the second round. Again, I think Jack Campbell could be great, but you just don't really seem to have that draft capital to do that this year.
Jacob says, happy early birthday. We'll throw him up here. Tomorrow's my birthday as well. Jacob, happy birthday. April 6th is the best birthday you could possibly have. It's also
not biased at all.
It's not biased at all. It's also day one of the Masters. And I know Josh loves golf and I love golf. So to me, that's the best birthday gift I could have is it's Masters Thursday tomorrow. So Jacob, happy birthday. Hope you have a great day tomorrow. Shout out to the April 6th birthdays here. How about Andre Carter with the 30th pick? Andre Carter's a second rounder. Yeah. How about that's tough.
I was gonna say no. What did Andre Carter? What was his bench reps? Didn't he have like an incredibly low
It was
bench
a
rep,
lot.
or did he do that? Because I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know his size is a question, and obviously,
Yeah,
he there's limits or restraints, with being a part of the military. But like, even so, trying to get more mass and all that, like that's just not a positive sign. You don't want to see a
for a second
defensive
rounder.
edge rusher or something like that have strength issues coming on board. So I would probably stay away.
I want to get to John's in 1 second. I'll answer that. I want to respond to that though. We do forget a lot of these college players from the smaller colleges and a service academy. Trust me, both I got dad and brother both went to one. They're smaller out there. The right tackles that you play against when you face Air Force and Army are not as big as Lane Johnson or any of the other Jordan
That's true.
Mailata. I mean, it is a different kind of gravy when you come to the National Football League. The same thing goes for wide receivers, but really offensive line to me is the craziest one. You can go from playing a guy who's a backup in college football who will never even sniff an NFL field to 17 straight weeks of the 17 best offensive linemen you could ever face. And it's a completely different beast out there. Completely different beast. John, I think this is John's first entry into the jersey giveaway. He has a 20 here. Happy
Got you
birthday.
down.
My birthday is Sunday, so happy birthday. A lot of people's birthdays early April. Shout out to the April birthdays, John. Want Bijan badly. Offense will be unstoppable. That seems to be the continued thought with Bijan is that, listen, yeah, you could use defensive lineman, you could use a cornerback maybe, you could use an offensive lineman, but how are you stopping Bijan Robinson in this offense? That's the Bijan argument that I see in my comments so often. And while I'm very much for Bijan, I'm not Bijan or nothing. I'm not draft 5, if you will, that's out there right now. I do have a very hard time arguing with the idea that you would be able to stop our offense with Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, this offensive line, Dallas Goedert, and Bijan Robinson. Very hard to figure out how to do that because I have no idea.
No,
No idea.
And also the further argument along that is, I know that, hey, you could say running backs don't last as long. You're not going to be able to sign him to a second term deal or whatever. Get through the 5 years, sign him to a second contract. But the argument has also been surfacing, which I think is pretty fascinating. Of yeah, but you're not asking Bijan to have 30 carries a game. Like you look at some of the bell cow running backs, like a Saquon
point.
Barkley, the Giants have run the tread off the tires of him so badly. I mean, yeah, he's a great player, but there's a point where, I don't know what it is. I'd have to look it up, but there's like a certain metric, a certain number of, if they have 250 carries or 300 carries per season for like 4 seasons or something like that, then you really start to see a dip. But Bijan Robinson is coming here with as fantastic as he is, but you're still only going to be like, hey, maybe we give him 15 carries a game. He stays fresh. So, look at his 5-year track record. If you were to just fast forward that and accelerate it, I know injuries could always happen to anybody, but let's say that he doesn't get injured and he plays 15 carries a game, 15 touches a game, compared to like what a Zeke Elliott got for his first seasons. Then you're talking about like a 2-3 year difference in terms of what the miles are on him. So there's the argument you could be made of, hey, maybe it is a longer term play. I know running backs are kind of a dime a dozen for most people, but for what he could add to this offense, yeah, I'm in favor of it. I am. I want to see it happen, but I think that there's maybe more that meets the eye here with this possibility of happening.
I'll go glass half full on this as well. If he gets 15 carries a game, think how fresh you'll be, at the NFC title game playing San Francisco. You're talking about Zeke would get 30 carries a game for 18 straight games, and now you're getting a guy who, would barely be at half of that through a much longer part of the season. So sure. And this whole idea that, you wouldn't be able to sign him to a second contract. Who cares? You can use him for 5 years and then move on. It's what most people do in the NFL anyway with running backs. Very few get second contracts that are not named Zeke Elliott and Saquon Barkley. They go elsewhere. Miles Sanders is a great example. They used Miles Sanders for the entire 4 years of his deal, and then it's like free agent, don't want to pay you $6 million a year. Peace out. See ya. It's that simple.
I agree. And it's
not a bad thing.
$4 million a year. I mean, that's what the rough math on that is going to be. So yeah, you're not paying astronomical numbers. So yeah, I'd be in favor of it.
Tyler Wallace jumping in here for 5 more on the entry for the jersey giveaway. Quick thought on the O-line. Draft Steve. How do you say his last name? I always mess it up. Is it Avila?
Avila? I think it's Avila.
I was, Avila and Sim for your trade 10 with Tampa to get future first, then get, the names on this one are absolutely brutal for me tonight.
Oh, gosh.
But can you say his last name too? I always mess it up. It's Alua. I think it's Fashanu.
Fashanu, that's my guess.
Who is Tampa coming up to get? Is Tampa getting a quarterback? I mean, they have Baker Mayfield. They have Kyle Trask. Remember they spent a pretty high draft pick on Kyle Trask?
Yeah.
I'd just be curious who Tampa is going to go ahead and come up and get. I think Pittsburgh is a trade-up candidate that makes a lot of sense. And there was another team I was thinking about that makes a lot of sense for a trade-up candidate, but I'm blanking on who that is.
There's rumors of the Vikings. I don't know if that's where you're going, but there's a report from. Yes. Okay, yeah, I was going to say the Vikings a possibility.
Hendon Hooker, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hendon Hooker,
interesting.
Fascinating.
You got Kirk
fascinating in
Cousins,
this draft.
35, going to be, or about to
Yeah.
be 35, going to be on that contract year. Do you say maybe it's time to move on? So I don't know. That'd be a big move for them to do that, but you never know. Draft night, you have teams all of a sudden making splashes.
Yeah, Hooker is one of those players where he makes a ton of sense, but you can't take him in the top 10 because you don't know what the knee looks like. And you don't want to draft somebody who's already blown his knee up pretty darn badly. But if you're the Vikings, if you're the Colts, you want to trade out of 10 or out of the top 10 and sit there at 12 and go, okay, we'll take Hendon Hooker now. I mean, you don't hate the idea, but for me, the knee injury would scare me off from Hendon Hooker. I think he's a great player. And I think you watch, which game was it last year before the injury that was really, really tough? Was it the Georgia game? I think the Georgia game was brutal to watch. It was like he couldn't read that defense worth anything. And that was a football team that was pretty darn good and could easily have gone out there and at least played with Georgia, had their quarterback played well, and he didn't play well. So, you know, you talk about playing the most NFL-like defense your entire career or your entire, season, and you're terrible. It makes you kind of go, I don't know about that guy. So anyone can shred Missouri in the SEC, but can you shred the Georgia defense? That seems to be a big problem.
Yeah, he definitely had struggle with Georgia. I mean, they took it to Alabama, so you got to give them credit for that. I mean, there's a case on both sides, but yes, I mean, you always say, well, what was it? Was it the scheme? Was it not being in the right situation? Was it the fact that you're at home versus on the road? I mean, that's a big deal, obviously, for college football, especially. But with the knee injury too, anyone coming off of knee injuries, we have, a number of instances you could point to for former draft picks of trying to, get lucky with those. So I say try to stay away from injuries really for all teams. If you're trying to be smart, I would say let's be skeptical. But I don't think he's going for sure in the top 10 or very early.
Parlay says, why grab a lineman without a running back? Maybe grab a wide receiver, a tight end. This offense needs to replace Miles' production somehow. The anti-Bijan argument is very simple. Any other year with this running back draft class, take away Bijan Robinson, any of us would be thrilled with Tank Bigsby or Zach Charbonnet or whatever you say his last name, or the guy from Texas A&M in round 3. I mean, we would be thrilled with that if Bijan Robinson didn't exist, because those running backs are very, very good. They're just not Bijan Robinson. So there is an argument where you could take an offensive lineman early and then wait for running back, and then it's Saturday morning or Saturday midday, whenever round 3 starts, and it's like, oh, wait a second, we just got a running back, now we're happy. But because Bijan exists, people get a little bit upset about it. So what are you going to do? Let me ask you quickly. I did a show on this earlier. There was an NFL exec who said that he expects Jalen Hurts to get the Patrick Mahomes treatment when it comes to a contract. And I know he texted about this, but 10 years, $450 million is what Mahomes got. He got a restructuring that bumps it up, but spreads the money out more. His whole contract is fascinating to me because if you actually pull it up, his cap hit every single year is so spread out so well. And I'm starting to wonder. At first I said 10 years for anybody is ridiculous, but I mean, look at this contract. Let me pull it up here. It makes a ton of sense for Jalen Hurts. If they really think he's going to be what he was last year for his entire career, which we all think he's going to be, I mean, a 10-year deal makes a ton of sense. Let me see this, because it was when I looked at the math on this. Let's throw it up on the screen. Okay, that gets rid of you. Let's see that one. There we go. So like look at this from Sport Track. He has a base salary of $5 million in 2023. 5.5. That's it. Then 2.5, then 2.5, then 2.5, then 10, then 13, then 20, then 27, then 38. Now, you talk about the bonuses. It's a cap hit is still going to be up there. But his cap hit, even if you want to talk about that, it's never more than $48,000 except for 2 seasons, 2027 and 2030. Like, they are set up with less than $45 million in cap space, basically each the next 4 years. This thing, to me, makes a ton of sense if you're convinced he's going to be very, very good versus a 4-year deal where your cap hit and your overall money each season is going to be a lot more. I'm leaning towards it. Maybe not 10, maybe 7, whatever. But that right there is kind of the mold I'm looking at if you want to be able to sign people. And the Chiefs have clearly shown that as they've done some really impressive moves in free agency the past couple of years.
Yes, they've definitely created a lot of room, and I agree. We've kind of talked about it a little bit. I saw your show. I talked about it a little bit in mine as well. But it's so tough to say because like hindsight's 2020, and you could easily look back at it now and say, well, yeah, that's a fantastic deal for the Chiefs. What they've already gotten out of Patrick Mahomes, but you kind of see what he's going to be, and it frees up so much more cap space. You have it as bonuses, like you just pulled up and showed. But the question that it always kind of comes back to is, Jalen, as great as he is, he's not Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that he's not at the level of how great Patrick Mahomes is, or that he can't get to that level, but he's a different type of player. Like Mahomes is not taking the ball and running on a lot of these like designed run plays that Jalen's getting. Now, then the question becomes, if you sign Jalen to, let's say, for example, for the case of the argument, to a 10-year deal, do the Eagles change the play style, the play calling? Nick Sirianni says no. He was asked about it. He says, nope, we're going to use him the same way. He's a Swiss Army knife. We're going to get a lot of value out of him, and we're going to just go ahead with the offense as usual. Is that just a like politically correct answer for right now because no deal's gotten done? You don't know, because I would think that if you sign a guy to basically a lifetime contract, that there's a little bit of, sticker shock and, hey, let's make sure that this guy's actually going to be there on the field for us. So I could see it both ways. Where I think that this would be falling and maybe make a little bit more sense is with the play style and how Jalen is. He is smarter than some quarterbacks. He's smarter than a Lamar Jackson and throwing himself in there for needless injuries and things like that. But still, he is going to get beat up more. I mean, you're going to see him probably have some injuries, hopefully not next season, but just over the course of his career, there's going to be some injuries. And hopefully it's only, a couple games, even like this season was, a couple games where he's out, he's able to come back. But to me, that makes it more of, I would see or be happy with something like a 6-year deal rather than a 10, because a 10 just locks you in for so much. Now, how he can get creative and maybe there's ways to get out of it if things happen, you need to, move on. Hopefully that never does happen, because I do think that Jalen showed enough, obviously, from this last season and the Super Bowl. If he hadn't gone and done what he did in the Super Bowl, then I'd be a little bit more on the, okay, it's one season, but he elevated his game each step, every step of the way he elevated it, and then played the best in the biggest stage. So I'm in favor of saying this is your franchise guy. That's not what it is. It really just comes back to the durability. And do you want to sign up for 10 seasons?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a pretty good argument. I'm not gonna lie about that. But I just saw what they're able to do when they have Mahomes, and that to me is the very interesting part of it. Now, what Philadelphia has the luxury of doing is they've signed all their skill players for the next 3 and 4 years, depending on how long the Devontae Smith extension is going to end up being. Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, they got these guys. Mailata's locked up. Lane Johnson next couple of years. If they take a hit, it'll be defensively, and I have said you can draft defense and hope it pans out. And I mean, how much defense has been played in the past 2 Super Bowls the Eagles have played in? Not a lot. So we'll see either way. A lot of people are talking about Bijan being there with the Eagles trade back. This is interesting in terms of Bijan, which is obviously the hot take on this one. I think what needs to be done is look at the teams that could take Bijan. When you talk about trading back, where would you actually have to go in order to still be able to get him? I pull up something like this mock draft from NFL.com. The teams that actually could take Bijan Robinson. Okay, you go after 10. Tennessee isn't. The Raiders aren't. The Jets aren't. I did see an article today saying not only are the Patriots shopping Mac Jones, but they've also been interested in taking a blue chip, like a serious running back. So I guess you can make the case 14. But, I mean, this mock draft has Anthony Richardson going at 14. So who knows what the Patriots are going to do. Yeah. Probably not a running back, though. After that, Packers, they won't go running back, Commanders won't. Steelers won't. Detroit won't. The Bucks, maybe. Although that seems like a team that has a lot more needs than just taking a running back. Seattle won't. Chargers still have Eckler. They haven't traded him yet. And why would you draft Bijan if you're just going to have Austin Eckler? Well, the Ravens are one of them, and the Buffalo Bills are the next. And, of course, we talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings because the Vikings are trying to trade to Dalvin Cook. That, to me, tells you that if you want Bijan Robinson, anywhere between 10 and 20 is fine to go back to, because there isn't a team that actually needs a running back until really Buffalo at 23. And even there, I don't know if they're going to take Buffalo. This one has them doing it, but, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of those except for, and I know this kind of sounds crazy because it there's so many other areas or holes that they need to fill, but I kind of think the Commanders could move up there and take him because, and the only reason or the main reason I'm doing it is really just because of the Vegas odds. Like the Commanders, I think the last time I checked, are the second favorite for picking Bijan Robinson behind the Cowboys. The Cowboys are first, the Commanders are second. Now, I don't know why you would, because if you're that organization, you need a lot of other holes to be filled and, to take a look at what you're trying to do. But at the same time, you've got a guy like Ron Rivera who would love to get a running back like a Bijan Robinson and solidify, make sure their defense is good and maybe just play a ground and pound football game. But when Vegas is setting up the lines this way, it just always gives me pause to say, well, maybe there's a little bit more rumor and speculation that we're not aware of that Commanders, if Bijan were to get to that point, just said, no, let's grab him.
What are the Vegas odds right now? Let me pull them up right in terms of the Vegas odds. This is DraftKings. I have it right here. Okay. Washington Commanders have the shortest odds to land running back. Wow, you called it. plus 400. So you bet $100, you win 400 with DraftKings. Then the Chargers. Okay, I said the Chargers wouldn't, but I guess this is thinking they trade Eckler. Then Dallas, then Philly, Atlanta. Atlanta is no, there's no way the Falcons would take Bijan Robinson. There's not
That
a
doesn't
chance.
make any sense
The
at
Falcons
all.
will take a corner or a defensive lineman with their first pick. There's no way there. Okay, so 3 of the 4 teams in the NFC East could be interested in Bijan Robinson. Good call there on the Commanders. I missed that. I had no idea the Commanders would actually be interested in Bijan Robinson. I feel like they have. Okay, I don't need this newsletter here. That I feel like the Commanders would have other needs, and they like the guy from Alabama that they had who got shot in the leg, right?
I assumed so. Yeah, it's just I had seen it a couple days ago, and they were the second favorite, but now obviously they moved even to the top, which I guess makes me think that it's even more likely if that's the direction that they're moving in now. So I don't know. It doesn't really make sense at face value, but I guess that you go back to that's the predicament you fall in. If you like a guy like Bijan Robinson, you probably, and he's available at 10, because we've been in this argument. If you're just joining, if Jalen Carter's available at 10 or Bijan Robinson's available at 10,
Right.
if both are, who do you take? I think you just got to grab your guy there. It's too risky. It's too risky of a business to say, let's go back to 14, 15, 16, wherever you want to go, and then hope that one of the teams doesn't take them or a team doesn't trade up. I mean, if Philly moves back and all of a sudden, make this up, but let's say Dallas is like, nope, we need him. Let's trade right up in front of Philly, grab Bijan Robinson. Don't worry about them taking him in the division. I could see that happening too. So I think you got to grab him if that's who you really want. And how he's saying, yep, Bijan Robinson can turn this team around, or not turn him around, but change the dynamic of the offense. Then you got to go ahead and just do that.
I would trade up from 30 to get him. If you pass on him at 10 and then you still want him, I would move up from 30 instead of move back from 10. I would take 10. I think they'll stay at 10 and take whoever they think is the best player available, whether it's Skoronski or Carter or a pass rush or whatever. But if you're sitting there and it's 23 and Bijan still hasn't gone and the Cowboys are at 26 and you really want him, then that's where I would go ahead and get him. Comments here. I'd take Porter or Ringo could be at 23. Porter did have an official visit. Josh mentioned that earlier. I wouldn't take Ringo at 23. I think Ringo's a second or third round draft pick. Tyler Wallace just said that. You might get Ringo at 62. That's very possible. In a scenario where we trade back a few picks to stack up some day 3 picks, we could still get Bijan around 16 or 20. That just talked about that. That is technically true. The safety from Bama, so Brian Branch and Bijan, could drop to 23. Yeah, I don't think Branch is a top 15 player. Very few safeties are. Like, you don't see a lot of really good safeties that go inside the top 10. I mean, the Jamal Adams experience was a good example of that. And if you remember last year, Kyle Hamilton went to Baltimore right after the Eagles took Jordan Davis. And did you hear Kyle Hamilton's name at all last year? The answer was no. He was very much irrelevant.
It's one of the top misses. I mentioned it earlier, but like the position since 2000, safety is also one of the top positions that they miss in the first round. So it's tough. Kind of,
and that goes back to the idea of you're a safety at X college and you're playing against wide receivers who won't even make a practice squad. And then you come and you play A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And it's like, wait, this is really hard. You got to cover George Kittle running routes down the field. This is tough. I personally think Bijan gets taken by the Chargers. They got their left tackle replacement. Maybe. We'll see. Nolan Smith would be there. I wouldn't take Bijan at 10 unless you truly think he's as good as Derrick Henry or better. I think people think he is. I don't know if he's that good, but people think that he is.
From everything that everyone's saying, and Todd McShay even said it today on an interview that he believes Bijan Robinson is better. He didn't say like massively better, but he said he's better than Saquon Barkley. So
wow,
for what that's worth, I mean, I'm just telling you, if that's what scouts like Todd McShay, and he's not alone in that argument, then there's the case to be made. Go get him. He's a game changer.
You want to put on the ultimate stretch to why the Eagles will take Bijan Robinson, because you just said Todd McShay. I met Todd McShay once in an elevator. The elevator was at DKR Stadium, the Texas Longhorn Stadium, going up to the press box. So there you go. There's your connection, everybody. I've met Todd.
It's going to happen.
Bijan is better than Saquon, and it was in Austin, and I think Bijan was probably like 14 at the time. So it's definitely going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. Let's see. Okay, Tyler getting 20 more entries into. We're going to see. Josh is going to tally it up right now and give us the top 5 people who have the most entries for the jersey giveaway. First off, let me pull up the jersey giveaway thing on the screen. Tyler, 20 more. I'm slowly falling in love with getting Jalen Carter and Gibbs. You will have one of the best DT rotations in the NFL, and the running back room will have speed, power, and catching. That could be very good. That is another scenario that makes an absolute ton of sense. If I could go ahead and pull up my other screen here, we get the 20 more entries. We'll talk about that in a second. My mock draft had that. That was my mock draft thoughts, right? You get Carter, and then you can take Gibbs there at 30. And if you were able to get Antonio Johnson in the 3rd round, then this is a home run, but I don't think they will be able to, but he was available in mine. So again, Carter and Gibbs, fine. No problem with that. I think most people think Gibbs is going to be a little bit worse than Robinson throughout his career, but who really knows, honestly?
Yeah, and he'll still have a great career. I think that he's going to be very productive. So I would love that. If that's the draft that you get, especially for the first two picks in the first round, I could definitely get behind that. And you could make the argument, this has kind of come up a little bit on Twitter too, of, if you get a guy like Gibbs, you probably don't need the wide receiver 3 as much because his receiving capability, I mean, you can throw him all over the place in the slot. You run him on a lot of other weapon, or use him as a weapon in a bunch of different areas. So maybe you say, well, we've got Quez. Let's just kind of play that thing out. We'll obviously get or maybe sign a 4th receiver, and then you just play him in a lot more sets. So you have maybe some more flexibility there. I would be in very much favor. Obviously, again, I'm going to keep going back to Bijan would be my preference. But if you get Jalen Carter and Gibbs, I'm not going to be upset at all.
Notice the color of the $20 donation here on YouTube. It's orange, burnt orange, just like
I love it. There's a reason for that.
If Bijan Robinson didn't exist, we'd be talking about Jahmyr Gibbs like we did talk about Najee Harris a couple of drafts ago, where it was clearly one good running back in the first round. Najee goes somewhere in the 20s and then be a day one starter. But because Robinson exists, very few people talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, who is very good. Okay,
and let's just remember too, because I know you've mentioned this on a couple shows and even during the lives here, but like the whole mock drafts, and I didn't really like or care for Todd McShay's most recent for who he had going to the Eagles. He had Lucas Van Ness and then Will McDonald in the first round. But like we've mentioned, like these are the guys who have all the sources that we really don't have access to. So they're not just pulling a name out of their hat like, oh, let's just change it up for this draft. Let's go with, Lucas Van Ness. Sure, why not? Like they're going based on what they're hearing in the rumors. And so the fact that Todd McShay picked Bijan Robinson in his 3.0 mock draft, and then in his 4.0, he picked Lucas Van Ness, but he even had another blurb below it saying, I really consider Bijan Robinson again. All the speculation, I think he's better than Saquon Barkley. Like he went into more of a reason for why it still could happen. And so that's why I think that there's rumors, there's speculation, and even the fact that the rumors are out there, it has to tell you something that the Eagles view Bijan Robinson differently than how they do most running backs. Because any other year, this would be like, no, forget about it. The Eagles aren't going to consider running back, but you're still hearing these rumors and speculation. So obviously can't wait to see what happens and kind of plays out in this scenario. But Todd McShay is getting these reports from somebody.
Aiden Neal says Kyle Hamilton was actually really good this year, but you're right. Safety is not as impactful as other positions. Was he? I didn't watch enough Raven games, I guess, this year. I never saw his name being called, ever. I didn't see it called once. Safety value is as bad as running back. It has been in the past. I mean, really, the safety it's tough to hit. Alex Sherrill says Jalen $50 million, just stopping with Bianca not happening. I wouldn't never say never. One of these quarterbacks that is up for a new deal in Herbert and Burrow and Hurts and even Dak is going to get $50 million, and the rest are going to look at them and be like, give me $50 million as well. You can find decent running backs easily, but it's so much more difficult to find a decent defensive tackle. That's very true. Very true. Sounds good that we get Bijan at 10, but how much would we really utilize him? They'd use him enough. I mean, I get the idea. You didn't use Miles Sanders enough, but they would use him enough. You don't have to run him 30 times. We said this earlier. Run him 15 times. He gets 110 yards and a touchdown. That's enough. That's fine.
Yeah, that's plenty. And it's just the fact that even if you're just kind of game planning as smoke and mirrors with him, you put him out there, you got the RPO. It's just a defense has to account for it. It's say, hey, pick your poison. Where do you want to stop? You want to stop Bijan Robinson? You want to stop Jalen? You want to stop the receivers, tight end? Like you have so many other weapons. And so like we mentioned, you don't have to use him and get him tired or worn out through the regular season. Then you save him for a game, NFC Championship game possibly, or just somewhere in the playoffs where, you know what, if you have a team that can't stop the run, then say, well, this makes our job easy because now, we're going to give it to him 30 times a game and try to stop that. So, I think it just adds more flexibility, but you're not asking him to come here and do the 25, 30 touches a game.
Show says whoever we draft just as long as Howie signs Hurts in that 10-year contract announced that this year is, if not, all this free agent draft picks will be all for nothing. I mean, they're going to sign Hurts. I'm not worried about that. Jordan Moments LLC sounds like a wedding photographer, but I don't know what you do, Jordan, but congrats on your LLC. Happy early birthday. My wife's birthday is tomorrow as well. How about, there's a lot of people born April 6th. It's 3 of us in this show tonight. I appreciate that. If you want to wish me happy birthday, give a thumbs up to the show as well. We appreciate the thumbs up. Jordan, tell your wife happy birthday as well. I hope she has an absolutely incredible day. David Rocks. I don't think David has gotten an entry into the jersey giveaway yet. I think he just did. Josh will confirm 10 entries. He says, I don't understand why Gibbs would be that option at 30. Why not get Carter at 10 and then trade up from 30 to take Bijan? I honestly think he will be there at 20. Also, what pick would upset you at 10? Okay, first off here, the one issue with this is that if you trade up to get Bijan, you're giving up maybe a first-round draft pick next year, at least a second-round draft pick, right? That's the argument. Is Bijan that much better than Jahmyr Gibbs in the term that you got to give up obviously this year's first-round draft pick, but then you also give up an additional draft pick next year that could be a first. Like if you're going from 30 to 20, you might have to give up a first-round draft pick to do that, or 2 seconds, something crazy like that. That would be the argument for why you would just stay and take Gibbs if you think he's, if Bijan's here and Gibbs is right there. Now, if Bijan's here and Gibbs is like way down there, you can't even see it, like way down there, then he's worth the extra draft pick. But you got to trade up and give up something in order to do so. Who would upset you at 10? I keep saying Skoronski, but I know he's going to be a great player. It'd be very underwhelming if we're doing a Thursday draft show, which we will be doing here, myself and Josh together, and it's Skoronski at 10. It's going to be a bummer just because it's just not sexy, right?
It's
sexy
not,
is
no.
fun. But Lane Johnson
giving away
that
jersey, so
yeah.
Or if it's the second one, I think we've kind of clarified that. If there's 2 picks in the first round, you're not really happy with who 10 is. Maybe 30 is a little bit more of a sexier pick.
If it's Skoronski and Gibbs, then sure, you can have the Gibbs jersey. We don't care. It's the same price, whichever you guys want. Can you give us a rundown of our top 5 people who have the most entries? Not that it matters, because technically you can have 1 entry, you can still win the jersey because it's a random draw, but you just have more entries overall, so more chances. Give us a rundown here.
Yep. So at first, we've got Tyler Wallace. He's got 130 entries.
Okay.
Second, we have a Kennick Shep with 40 entries.
Okay.
And then actually another second, tied for second, is Andrea Bland.
Andrea, yes.
And then we've got, I guess that would make it fourth, is Sydney Family with 30 entries.
Okay. I haven't seen him in the show yet.
And then actually, I think he said good morning, guys, a little bit earlier. I didn't see anything else.
Good morning, Sydney Family.
And then Chris, and I actually didn't have the last name on it, but he's got 17 entries. I've got him saved here for the photo, but Chris with 17 entries.
There you go. All right. So even if you have 1 entry, you still have a chance to win the first round draft picks jersey. I keep saying first round draft pick, but if it is Skoronski or Lucas Van Ness and you want a Jahmyr Gibbs jersey instead, we'll get you a Jahmyr Gibbs jersey. Don't worry about it.
Or if Bijan's, the second first round. Hey.
If it was Skoronski and then Bijan, we would not buy you a Skoronski jersey, okay? We're not that mean. We would definitely get you the Bijan jersey. My goodness.
Oh, sorry.
That'd be so funny. Like, have fun. See you wear this. That'd be so funny. Joski008 says, Derek Gunn is pretty well connected. That is true. He said that he was told by someone in the Eagles organization that they are definitely not taking running back in the first round. Okay.
Okay.
Who knows?
Interesting.
He is connected. He is connected. But
he definitely is.
I've
seen some other Philly reporters this week that have said that Bijan, the Eagles are seriously considering him though. So, it's
crazy smoke.
What is it? Like, and it goes back even to the Jalen Carter argument of the teams that are saying like, hey, Raiders saying he's off their draft board, the Lions sounding like they're kind of in the same boat. Maybe some other teams too have reports like that, but do you really believe it? So like that, even with Bijan Robinson, how much are legit reports and saying, hey, by the way, we're not going to take this guy? Or is it smoke and mirrors to try to get teams to bite or to let a guy drop or fall later in the round so where maybe you can pick him? So it's this chess game that all teams play. This happens every single year. There's so many reports, about 50% are inaccurate. It's like, yep, we were never considering that guy, or vice versa. I don't doubt, yes, that Derek Gunn is very well connected and he has great sources, but even times that teams try to use sources, sometimes, to get a little bit of a leg up on the competition. So we'll all find out in about 3 weeks. But I will be interesting to hear the backstory and obviously who the Eagles do end up targeting on draft night.
And I think we get at least mentioned with Derek Gunn. I mean, you say what you want about Jacob Media. I think they do a pretty good job over there. I'm not a Dan CeeLo fan. I don't think most people are. That's Derek's idea. I mean, it's his whole run thing, and it was based on the fact that he wasn't renewed at NBC Sports Philadelphia, something like that, and he took matters in his own hand and made a pretty solid alternate to some of the options that you have if you're a local Philly guy. So credit to him. And I will say this, there are a lot of Eagle YouTubers, a ton of them now. I mean, goodness gracious, there's more every single day. But he's the most connected. I mean, if you were to actually ask who is the most connected one, it is Derek Gunn. Doesn't mean he knows everything, but he is probably the most connected out of all of us just because he has those connections that, I mean, are a lot longer than mine and Josh's. I have a couple. I'm not void of connections in the world of the Philadelphia Eagles, but mine are not as plugged in as Derek Gunn is. So credit to Derek Gunn on that one. Let's see here. Kyle Hamilton was one of the top rated safeties, mainly because he played in the box. Okay, well, that does happen. Thomas, I like your mock draft. The only problem I had was third round. Why not take Nathaniel Tank Dell? Was he available when I was doing my mock draft? I don't remember. I do not remember.
That would have been a good pick.
Those mock drafts are nuts. They're very fun to do. You could just sit at work all day and just do mock drafts because it's totally random all the way around. Very fun.
And I love the fact that they do like just these kind of random trades, like, hey, this team's trying to trade with you so you can, either decline or move forward. So yeah, there's so many random options, but I find myself doing multiple every single day. Like, oh, hey, who did I get this time? So you could definitely lose a lot of hours doing those.
Who's the best? Who's asking this? Where I just lost it. SBSR. Who's the best receiving back in this draft? They would tell you it's probably Gibbs. But I think the TCU kid is really good, and the A&M kid is very good. It feels like
I like A-Shane from A&M personally.
There you go. Most running backs in a modern college football offense can catch the football out of the backfield. Bijan can do it too. It's not like he's bad at it, but most of them can't because there isn't an offense that's just pure hand the ball off unless you play for Iowa or Michigan, where they're not going to throw the football to you at all.
Yeah, hardly any points scored with Iowa. I don't know that you take an Iowa offensive player unless it's Sam Laporta. Anybody else?
Tight ends, you take defensive players. That's it. Nothing else. Off topic on Eagles. Who do you think is the best quarterback in this draft? I think I like Levis with his arm strength. Levis is nuts. Everyone talks about Anthony Richardson being the wild card of this draft. Sure, Levis is way more polished, but very much a wild card too. Like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are as close as you can get to being guarantees, right? They have very good chances of being good. It's the same thing we've had almost every year where there's at least two where you go, yes, I could give my franchise to Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I feel confident with it. Anthony Richardson is so up in the air. I have no idea if he's Josh Allen or Jamarcus Russell. Will Levis, though, has a crazy arm strength. It's like Kirk Cousins with crazy arm strength and some athletic ability. And that seems to be the kind of new mold of some of these quarterbacks in the in college football, where in the past, you either had really good arm strength and were a pocket passer, or you had mediocre arm strength and could run all over the place. Nowadays, you're getting the Levises of the world who are pocket passers, but have crazy running ability. I mean, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he can run and really good arm strength as well. Again, you put on the tape. We talked about it with Hendon Hooker, and you put on some of those games and you watch him play defense or quarterback against good defenses. And it's like, you can carve up Missouri all you want in the SEC. What did you do against Georgia? How'd you look against the better teams in the SEC? And there were times where he threw a bunch of interceptions that made me kind of really scratch my hand or scratch my head and go, I'm not sure about it. Someone will take him in the top 5. We are guaranteed 4 in the top 10. And if someone freaks out and wants to take Hendon Hooker, there'll be 5 in the first 15. Which is
that'd be nuts. Yeah, they've said according to the draft history, there's never been 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 10. So I'll be surprised this year if that doesn't happen. I mean, just based on what you're seeing, I would have thought there would have been 4 in the top 10, but apparently not. There's been 3, but it hasn't gotten to 4.
It's because Rosen was taken 11th to the Cardinals, right? That's what it was.
But at first I was like, wait, I really? Because I had to go through and look at that. But this year would be the one where I'm thinking, surely you're going to. I mean, the speculation, maybe not. Maybe teams let one of them slide. I know that. I'm with you. Will Levis is a potential. And it was weird because as the season started, I think he was probably near the very top. He was either like 1 or 2.
Yes.
But then it's like, as the season went further along, it's like, where are we going to see this? Like, he's not having great performances against these good defenses. He had some good ones against, maybe subpar, just the averages defenses in the SEC. But yeah, the head scratchers, the decision making. And then I think someone posted, I can't remember who it was, but it was on Twitter. They had a heat map for like where his targets and his percentage of completions. And it was terrible. It was mostly blue everywhere. So it just leads you to believe, like, is he going to be able to translate to an NFL offense? Is he going to be able to make those throws consistently? Because I think a lot of the tools are there, but it comes to a mental game as well. And, can they make those completions? So I'll be interested to see how he actually can perform. But I think he is the wild card. If he goes in the top 10, I think the others are a lock. And then you're talking about, 4 quarterbacks probably in the top 10 at that point.
Some of these numbers, some of these games, you have 11 completions against Louisville. You throw a pick and a touchdown. You have a 64% completion percentage and 20 completions against Georgia. The Vanderbilt game, you had 11 completions. Didn't throw it. The Tennessee game was the real one where I was like, yikes, because it was at Tennessee. The weather was not good. 3 picks, 16 of 27. I mean, look at this. He doesn't have, 2 games more than 20 completions the entire year, 2,400 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks. I mean, there are plenty of quarterbacks that are bad in college football at times, and they turn into be Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is one of them. But it's like, man, I don't know about this kid. To me, I would take Young, I would take CJ Stroud, and then I would have to really, really make sure my scouting department is very sure about Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, but they're going to go in the top 10. Doesn't matter. There's City family. We're wondering if you were on the show today. You're correct. You are. Happy birthday, Thomas. Thank you. Birthday is tomorrow. How he may get a right guard and a D line in the first round. However, what are your thoughts on getting Andrew? I think it's Voy.
Mm-hmm.
These names, man. 6'6", 320 right guard with an ACL injured ACL, and later rounds he can play. This entire super chat here, and shout out to 15 more entries into the jersey giveaway for City family. I know you're already up there towards the top. Is exactly why you can't really judge a mock or judge a draft by the first round. They could easily go Skoronski and Cansey in the first round, and it'd be like, okay, trenches. And then day 2, Gibbs falls, or they go get the guy from UCLA or the running back from A&M, and then you have a running back in there, and then you get a wide receiver in round 3, and suddenly it looks like a really good draft. Whereas at the beginning, you say, oh, they passed on Bijan. Oh, they passed on Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh, they didn't get a defensive end. So it takes time to figure things out. And for the people that want guard in the first round, City's right here on this one too. You could go Bijan with the first pick. You could go, Joey Porter or Branch or somebody at 30, a non-offensive line player. And then in round 5, they trade up using some draft capital from next year, and they get this guy who obviously has some injury concerns, but he learns behind obviously one of the best offensive line coaches, the best in the National Football League. That's the big ticker that Josh said earlier. You probably missed it if you're just joining us. Josh made a great point about how you could take somebody who's undrafted and turn him into a decent offensive lineman, at least for depth, just based on the fact you have Jet Stoutland. Jack Driscoll was undrafted, was he not? I mean, you talk about Ben Toth was undrafted, was he not? I mean, they had some guys who were able to be decent depth people. Now, will they turn out to be players or real players who can actually compete for a while? No, but they have plenty of depth on the offensive line that they could just add an undrafted or 7th round guy to and make some really good, talented players. Mims in the 2nd round, wide receiver of Oklahoma. Okay, Mims is a very sexy Twitter pick right now. He's not talked about a lot in terms of content creator channels or really in any mock drafts. I know you like DeMarvin Mims out of Oklahoma. Would you take him with your 2nd rounder, though? That's the question.
It's a tough question, and probably not. I guess I'll just go back to the fact that you just don't have a whole lot of picks. And so as great as that would be, if we were sitting here and let's say we only had AJ Brown or we only had Devontae Smith, then maybe it's another story. But we're talking about a wide receiver 3, and it's not a guy who's going to be used as much. You brought up the stat earlier. It's what Quez had 40 targets. So even if you get a better replacement there, you're not going to come in and say, hey, this guy's going to get 80 targets, because as soon as you do that, then one of the other receivers is going to be upset. And we know that receivers can be divas and they need to eat, like you mentioned earlier too. So I don't think that it makes sense right now. The offense, the way that it's situated, you need a guy who's maybe a little bit later in the rounds. If you get someone like a 3rd round, or even if you trade to stockpile some other picks, let's say you get a 4th or 5th round in this year's draft from a trade back situation or whatever, maybe look at a wide receiver there. I think that make more sense. But is as effective or more explosive, I think you make the argument be if you take a pick like a Marvin Mims. I just don't think it makes sense in this year's draft.
People are reminding me that Jack Driscoll was a 4th round draft pick. Okay, I was wrong about that. Jack Driscoll, who I'm trying to think who I was thinking of, because Driscoll's a really good backup. 4th round is still a day 3 guy. I mean, it's not undrafted, but I get your guys' point. Good fact check. You're right on that one. Who am I thinking of? It was Sua Opeta. That's who I'm thinking of. Sua Opeta is a fine, not a starter, serviceable guard that you can bring in, and he was undrafted. He was undrafted free agent. Okay, I was one of them. Goodness gracious, there's a lot of people.
A lot of names.
Let me see here. Al Howard said he's gonna do things different this draft. Listen to his press conference. Lori, spelled it like my way my mom's name is spelled. Lori wants offense. It does seem that way, but they could also be lying to you. Elijah Ernest has hit the sub button. Yes. How many subs are you at, Josh?
We were over 2,300 earlier today, so we were getting up there.
Launching up the sub board. I'm at 10,629. I'm trying to get to 11K by the draft. I think that'd be very fun. So be sure to sub to both of us. Although I think a lot of people here are already subbed to both their channels. We appreciate it. Nate Erbig. There you go. There's another one. What happened to him? He got signed by somebody this offseason, didn't he? He went somewhere. Let's find out. Find out. Where did he go? Erbig got worked a couple of times, but he was very clearly a serviceable guard offensive lineman in the National Football League. He is obviously undrafted. Who does he play for now?
Steelers.
Oh, 2-year, $8 million deal. How about that? Oh, wait, no, I'm seeing Jets.
Are you?
Oh, no. You're right.
I was gonna say, yeah.
You're right. I was like, wait a second. I think it's Urbig is with the Steelers. There you go. I think it's Pittsburgh. 15K by the draft. That'd be nice. 15K subs by the draft would be very nice.
Heck yeah.
That'd be very sick. The draft is what? Today's the 5th. The draft is 1, 2. So we're literally 3. We
3
are
weeks in a day.
3 weeks in a day away. Wow, that's crazy. That's
just very, very hard to believe. Yeah.
Very, very quickly. Yeah. Masters start tomorrow. Any Masters fans here in the chat? Do we have any picks for tomorrow? I got to fill out my Masters fantasy league. I got to send you that link, my Masters fantasy league. Have you ever played Masters fantasy golf?
I have
on
not.
Masters.com.
No.
It's very fun.
I'm down. Yes.
I'll send you the link. It's just like a free league that we're doing, but I'll send you that league. I'm a massive Roy McIlroy fan. I have his picture hanging over here. You people can't see it. I have Rafa Nadal, Devontae Smith, and Roy McIlroy, all with these like watercolor paintings I got on Etsy that are my favorite players right now. And I'm a huge Roy McIlroy fan, but he needs to win the Masters tomorrow. That'd be have a good day to start.
Yeah. Start out and then get off on the right foot where he usually does not.
I saw a stat that said you have to be in the top 10 after day 1 in order to win the Masters the past 10 years. Is what I saw.
That's
but I don't know if that's true. Who's here? Donatello Dragon with a $2 donation. I know that this is not the picture I wanted. There you go. 2 entries. He says, every Wednesday, it's good to see y'all, fellas. I appreciate that. It's great to see you guys, too. This has been fun. I'm so glad that Josh's channel has blown up and that we've kind of gotten a nice following here on the Wednesday link. I have always wanted to do a weekly live show on my channel alone. Way more fun with somebody, and I think Josh and I have had a really good start to the live shows where we're going to be doing these for a very, very long time. And obviously, night 1, night 2, the draft, we're going to be doing the entire first round. It's going to be a blast. My question for the night of the first round is, we got to either turn off the comments or make sure that we have some sort of broadcast connection that's up to date, or the comments are going to spoil it for us. Maybe when the Eagles are picking, I'm gonna turn off the comments on my end. That way I can watch it and be surprised, because people are gonna be like, "It's Bijan," and we're gonna be like 2 minutes behind. So
that's what I was gonna say.
Figure it out.
With the streaming on the YouTube TV, it's definitely not live. There's a delay, and all of a sudden it's like
so delayed. Oh my gosh. My mother has DirecTV, so she has like satellite, and she watches she's a massive Eagles fan. I took her to the divisional round game this past year, and she almost every week would be like, "Oh my gosh!" right before a touchdown would happen, and I would be like 2 plays behind. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, please." She's learned,
love that.
But sometimes she's so excited, she's like, "Jalen, go!" And I get a text, and it's I'm like watching Jalen get sacked because he hasn't gotten a touchdown yet. So
that's why I waited whenever we were watching the Super Bowl. That's why I was like, I can't text you immediately, because we were over at a friend's house who had DirecTV, and it was like, I know, like, I'm gonna hold off. It's like tough. 2 or 3 plays later, and they're like, "Can you believe that?" It's like, otherwise, you're gonna spoil it. So I don't know what this year's gonna be like, though, because NFL Network's on YouTube TV, right? Didn't they get the package, or because they moved it from DirecTV, the NFL Sunday Ticket, right? It's over to YouTube. So I guess everyone's going to be delayed in a sense, but it'll be better. Hopefully that'll be interesting to see how that works.
How do you think Jalen Carter would get with Jordan Davis? I think they'd be BFFs and do really well. I think that's a really good combination of a run-stopping D tackle in Davis and a pass-rushing D tackle in Jalen Carter. That's kind of the combo that you want. It'd be scary. It'd be very scary for a lot of opposing offenses, because that's pressure from the outside is always a problem. Quarterbacks hate pressure up the middle. They hate it, especially the good ones. I mean, you want to beat Aaron Rodgers, you want to beat Brady back in the day. It's pressure up the middle because they can't step up into a throw. Most quarterbacks now can run away from somebody coming on the edge. Now, again, how can you get away from Nick? What's his name? I'm blanking his name. What's his name? The pass rusher from the 49ers.
Bosa?
Thank you. Goodness gracious. Can you get away from Nick Bosa? Probably not. But that interior pass rush is a big deal. What's the weakest spot on the defense? Safety? Maybe linebacker. They're basically the same right now, because you have a young, unproven player at one of the starting spots in Reed Blankenship and Nakobe Dean, and then you have a guy in a 1-year deal who has performed, but not performed enough to where you gave him more than like $3 million a year, and Terrell Edmonds and Nicholas Morrow. So they're the exact same to me. The exact same. Your D-line and corner slots could be 100% fine as is right now. Now they're going to get better with draft picks, but as is, this is a championship level defensive line and secondary and cornerback spot. It's those, how good is Blankenship going to be? How good is Dean going to be? That's where you start to kind of have your little bit of question marks.
I agree. And I'm looking forward to see it, because I think that if you were to ask it, I'd be curious, I guess, to get your take on this too. But who's the player that needs to step up the most? Like, I kind of did a show about this, but in this coming season on defense, who is the player that has to have a breakout season? Mine was kind of going back and forth between really Nakobe Dean, and I know Jordan Davis had a fairly productive before the injury. And, he does need to take a bigger role, obviously, but I think it's probably Nakobe Dean at this point of he has to be the guy, obviously, but you really need to see him not only be the starter, but be a very productive starter and almost to a Pro Bowl level for this season. But I'm curious to know on your side, is that you lean there? Does it Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship? I mean, just who's the guy who really needs to take that next step forward?
I think Reed Blankenship can be pretty good. I think he can be just fine. I think he'd be a very, I mean, to me, you go put on the Green Bay film, he had the pick of Rodgers, but that was like one of his first starts. He didn't look lost. And that's what I love seeing about him basically the entire time that he played. He never looked like it was too big of a moment. He looked like, sure, he got beat a couple of times, as you do as a safety in the NFL, but I think he played well. I think Dean has to step up because the expectation is Dean's a round one linebacker who got screwed into being a round three linebacker. So if I had to pick, it's that. Blankenship's undrafted nobody who's playing with house money, who apparently played well enough to basically get the keys to the castle handed to him after one half of a season coming in after being an undrafted free agent safety. So I'm not worried about him at all. Cool Rand says, I started watching Josh because of the Wednesday link. There you go. Josh's channel has absolutely blown up. Josh has had more subscribers than any other Eagle content creator through the first, month, 2 months? Of anybody.
And 6 weeks on Monday. So
not a surprise
last Monday.
Why. If you watch Josh's show, you'll see it very, very clear. He does things very similar to a lot of people, but it's very different. Josh and my shows are always different. And I think about this too, and I haven't said this to you, Josh, but my show comes out around noon every single day. Your show comes out more towards the evening, and we're very consistent on our launch times. And every single time I do a show, I'm thinking like, well, obviously Josh is going to talk about this. Like he's going to talk about what I talked about today. And you still hit on those points. Josh always has something different that I didn't think about that day on his show. So if you're subscribed to me, you should be subbed to him as well, because you're not going to watch the same thing. We have different takes on things, and he talks about different things than I do. And it's a great, I would say, compliment if you're a subscriber of mine to subscribe to his channel as well. You're not going to be watching the same stuff regurgitated like you do on some of these other channels. So I agree.
I appreciate you saying that.
And sub to Josh.
It's funny that you say that too, because even whenever we first started, doing the Wednesday link, and I was like, hey, should we talk about like what the topics are going to be, like what we cover in our shows? And the funny thing is it's just happened organically. And I think the same thing, like I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't really thinking about like this topic or whatever you're bringing up on your show there. So it's just happened organically, but I've enjoyed the Wednesday link. Being able to talk. We obviously talked a lot whenever we were in college and, covered the different topics. The Eagles love that we had for the team there and covering Baylor. But to actually do this on a regularity, it's been awesome. And I really can't wait for the draft. I know we've mentioned it multiple times, but the fact that it's only 3 weeks away is insane. This off season has flown by, the fact that we're already this close to the draft, but I can't wait. We have so many live shows. I guess it's going to be, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Like it's going to be a busy week or 3 straight live shows. So, and giving away that jersey, that's going to be a blast.
Your wife and my girlfriend, we will not be seeing them for 3 straight days. Sorry, honey.
Tried to prep and warn at that point.
Prep and warn. I'm going to do a nice date night Tuesday night before the draft. That's the plan.
There you go. Yep.
I do want to ask the people in the comment section right now, who's the best player in this draft? If you had to literally, all biases aside of what the Eagles need, and the best player, when we look back on this draft 20 years from now, who do you think will be the best player? I want to see that comment. Josh and I will answer that in a second. Give me your is it Bijan? Is it Carter? Is it Skoronski? Is it Bryce Young? Who's the best player overall in this draft? Let me know down below. I'm going to read some comments right now while we are getting to that one. Mike Halo says, for me, if Carter falls to 10, draft him then. If he's going to trade back, if he's gone, trade back and get Bijan. That's fine. Ramos says, special teams and punter are our weakest spot points. It might be. It very well might be. David Rocks has got 10 more entries in. It's a nightmare to be a Cowboys fan. Their fan base wants Bijan. Do they not realize Pollard is an elite talent? Also, happy birthday. Pray we don't draft Skoronski. That's a good one over there. First off, thank you for the happy birthday wish. Second off, 10 more entries in the jersey giveaway. You're on the list. Josh handles all of that. It is a nightmare to be a Cowboy fan because Pollard is very, very good. He was better than Zeke. And it took them forever to realize that until they started running Pollard more than Zeke. Pollard's coming off of a broken ankle. That would be my concern there. It's going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting in terms of what the Cowboys are going to do. The other thing I see Cowboy fans talking about is tight end. It's like they can only think in terms of receiver, tight end, and running back, and of course Dak Prescott. And so they just draft Zeke, and then they're going to draft Zeke's replacement of Bijan. They can't bring back Dalton Schultz. They're going to draft Dalton Schultz replacement with whatever that tight end's name everyone talks about in the first round. It's tough to be a Cowboy fan, man. It's tough. It's not easy.
really
And we
is.
hate the Cowboys. Yeah. I used to live in Texas. Obviously, Josh lives in Dallas. He is surrounded by Cowboy fans. It's funny, but it also gets a little sad. And every single time I see the stat come up on Twitter because some Eagle content creator is beefing with some Cowboy content creator, because they do that all the time. It's very funny to watch. And the Eagle guy will go, wait a second, you haven't actually done anything remotely relevant in 26 years. I'm 27 tomorrow. The Cowboys have never gotten out of the divisional round in my lifetime. My lifetime. Josh was like in diapers the last time they made it to a Super Bowl. Yep. Just think about that. That's crazy. And it's not like I'm trying to throw some side shade at the Cowboys, but just imagine if the Eagles had not been out of the divisional round since 27 years ago. That would stink. Can you imagine?
Nope.
Wow.
It's crazy. But it's, you feel a little bit, maybe not even a little bit, but you feel for it a tiny bit being around here. You always hear people like, this is our year, but it's really more than feeling for it. It's just comical, because it's like, you just let them talk. Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's your year. Let's see what happens.
And that's the thing about
not
Dallas,
getting out of the divisional round.
And we're not going to stay obsessed with Dallas forever here, but are they a player away from going to the divisional round? Or from getting out of the divisional round?
Well, it's not even that, honestly. I mean, if you see what people are talking about, they're a player away from winning the Super Bowl, not just a player away from getting out of the divisional round. But
man, I don't know.
Maybe they're a player away, but the player away is like starting over with another quarterback.
Yeah.
So
what if Dallas
feels like a bigger thing?
What if they traded up for Anthony Richardson? That'd be nuts. That'd be fascinating, and it could work if Richardson was really good and changed the franchise, but they can't, because Dak every Cowboy quarterback becomes this like little idol that they all put on their little altar every single night, and they can't say anything bad about him. That's the big problem with Cowboy fans. You couldn't rip Romo, and Romo never won anything.
You can't move on to him until they move to the press box or the commentators booth.
And you can't rip Dak. Dak is so great. Dak was 12-4 one year, and yet Dak and Romo never do anything in the postseason. But Cowboy fans can't get off of those guys. We all love Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz struggles. See ya. Get me somebody else. I mean, I'm Don McNabb. See ya. Get me somebody else. We don't fixate on these people. That's the big difference. They like whoever is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is the greatest quarterback to ever play, ever in the history of the National Football League. He never makes mistakes, and we must worship him with everything that we have. And yet, Dak Prescott can't get out of the divisional round. It's crazy. It really comes down to it
is, and it really comes down to, you mentioned, are they one player away? Maybe they're one person away. You could make the argument of Dak or Jerry Jones. Like, there's a reason why the organization is run like it is. And, give him all the credit for, if you want to say it's a brand name, like he's tried to just build the brand, but there's a certain point where that comes to really losing, or you're not going to be having a winning mentality. The thing that I love about Lurie, and he mentioned it even his press conferences, we're all about winning. And you see it. Sometimes you have to make the cutthroat deals. Like it's a business. We hate to part ways with players. And there's definitely some disagreements that I've had with players that we've gotten rid of or not kept, or even brought in, but at the end of the day, I think you could clearly see the difference of how the organizations are run. And there you go. I mean, there's the reasons, the difference for the last 30 years.
Got some good comments here as we're rolling through these. What was that one?
Appreciate that, Donatello Dragon.
Yeah. Very professional. Very professional. Elijah Ernest says, where do you think Bijan will go? I think we should trade back to 13-17 if we want to get him. Thoughts? Okay, how about this? Does Bijan get past 15? Yes or no, Josh?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Not with the especially even the further or the closer that we get to the draft. I'm just telling you, with Todd McShay, Mel Kiper even mentioned it. He said he's top 10. He's like, and Mel Kiper, I mean, for those that haven't followed super close, like Mel is the one who's a lot less likely to say running back or to take running back. He hates him in the first round, but he's even coming on board now of like, yeah, Bijan might be the player that you splurge for. Like, he's even said it. He's a top 10 caliber person or player. And so if Mel's saying that, that's where I'm like, I just don't see any way possible where he slides outside the top 15.
Yeah. Okay. And people are answering because it takes so long. I'm so slow at reading comments. Sorry, guys. I'm reading them as fast as I can. I asked who's the best player in this draft. We're getting a lot of Will Anderson. So Ohana says Will Anderson, then Bryce Young, then Bijan. Let's be honest. Will Anderson says Aiden Neal, Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter, minus the off-the-field issues and the botched pro day, would be, in my opinion, the best player in this draft. But Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Bijan, Will Anderson, best player, Stroud. He has insane accuracy. I think I say it every single week. The Stroud tape in the semifinal against Georgia was I mean, that sold it for me. That was a crazy. Now he has elite receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. is unbelievable. But yeah. Will Anderson. Where do you think Bijan will go? We just said that. Will go top 5. Okay, let's. I just said where will Bijan Robinson go? Would you trade up to 6 for Will Anderson and give up a first next year? Would you give up 10 and next year's first to go to 6 to get Will Anderson? Yes or no?
Gosh,
that's tough.
That is tough. Because I think he's obviously a very great talent, and man, if he's even falling to 6, that's shocking to begin with. I hate getting rid of draft capital on drafts that you don't have a lot of picks. So that's the only thing that gives me pause. But yes, I mean, this team is built in the trenches, and when you have a chance to go get a guy like that, maybe I don't know if I could say yes, probably. It would depend, I guess, on what the trade looks like. That type of player, yeah. If you're talking about like having to trade a lot further up and give away more, a 10 to a 2 or 3, obviously that's not getting. But yeah, like 6, like, gosh, that's close enough where maybe you take a look at it and see what you can get done. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. David, with 5 more entries into our jersey giveaway, would it be blasphemous to trade both first rounders to move up for Will Anderson? We just talked about that.
Oh, there you go. Good question.
It's not blasphemous. Okay, well, he's saying both first rounders in terms of 30 and 10.
Oh, to go up to like 3 to 2.
Oh, 2 or 3. Wow. Would you do that?
No.
You wouldn't do that?
You're going to trade both?
30 and 10.
I know, but this draft, again, I just said, like, you don't have a lot of draft picks. And I guess if I'm struggling to move from 10 to 6 and trade away next year's where you have a lot of draft, like, I don't know. Like, he's like great talent. I can't deny that. But in a draft where you don't have many picks to begin with, all of a sudden you say, yeah, we got Anderson, but now we got to wait a long time. We don't have
having a brain freeze thinking about what I would do. I don't even know. That's a really good question. That might be question of the night because I have no idea. That might be a question I ask in a future show and just see what the comments say. No idea. Donato Dragon, 2 more entries. I'm from Oklahoma City. I feel your pain, Josh. Yeah, Oklahoma City is basically just North Dallas.
Yeah.
Same thing.
You know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, those Cowboy fans are rough. Very, very rough. Okay, CJ Stroud. Do you guys believe that it is between Bijan and Carter? If so, what percentage do you give it? I think if you had to ask me right now, all your money bet on the 3 players that are at the top of the board right now for Howie Roseman. I think it's Skoronski. I think it's Jalen Carter. I think it's Tyree Wilson. And then if you want, one more, then it's Bijan. I think his board literally says Carter, Skoronski, Tyree Wilson. I think that's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. If I had to guess Howie's board, that's 1, 2, 3. Because they're defensive and offensive line players, and they're the 3 best of them. Maybe we're assuming Anderson's not even on the board because he's not going to be there, right? So, 1, 2, 3. That's how I would rank it if I was him.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I would see that. I mean, percentage-wise, Bijan is up there. Like the Eagles taking Bijan is one of the top odds. It's not the top, obviously, as we looked at. But, I think I'm all in favor of Bijan. But if you're looking at realistically what Howie's going to do, it's probably, in my mind, a 10% chance that he takes Bijan, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's not 50. It's not 50% chance. No. You remember Kevin Cobb? These are comments when we were talking about the Eagle quarterbacks we got off America. Yeah, Kevin Cobb was the worst quarterback Philadelphia's had in a very long time, and he did not last very long. And you could just tell. It was like he was never going to make it. You're talking about the one guy that Andy Reid couldn't fix. It was Kevin Cobb. The poor guy, though. He got a lot of money.
My computers teacher, quick story. My computers teacher in high school actually was really good friends with Kevin Cobb, went to Stephenville High School.
Okay. There you go.
Crazy. There you go. I was like, and he was actually playing at
really?
Where did he go after the Eagles? He was
Arizona.
The Cardinals. Yes. So it would have been whenever he's playing in Arizona.
What quarterback did we trade him for? We got a cornerback for him. Didn't we?
Why am I drawing a blank?
This is like middle school Thomas's life. Let's see. Kevin Cobb trade Cardinals. I thought we got someone in return. Here it is.
Probably
it was Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
July 29th, 2001, the Eagles traded Kevin Cobb, the Arizona Cardinals team returned Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, and a 2nd-round draft pick? People thought he was that good, huh? Wow. Later, less than 8 months later, the Eagles would be labeled as winners of the deal. They got a pick twice in the 2nd round of the draft, holding 46 and 51 overall. The latter pick was acquired from the Cardinals. But DRC did not justify his 1st-round pick stats, was accused of giving up plays, recorded no receptions, 28 tackles in 13 games. I wonder who he took with that 2nd-round draft pick. Huh. There you go. That was 2011. So 2011 was how many years ago? Goodness gracious, 12?
Yeah.
12 years ago. I'm 27 now. It's 15. I'm 27 tomorrow. 15. Jeez. Kevin Cup. This is true. I thought the exact same thing. I thought Dorial Green Beckham was literally the next OBJ. 1,000,000%. I thought that. It was probably my worst take of my entire life. I was convinced because he was bigger. He was related. He had Beckham on the back of his jersey. He was massive, and he was awful. I think he caught a touchdown in the preseason, and he was like, oh, preseason? Oh, my gosh. That's like the preseason, the Sam Bradford preseason. You remember Sam Bradford's first preseason?
Oh, yeah.
And they lit up the Packers. It was him and that running back from the Chargers and what's his face and DeMarco Murray, and we lit
Ryan
up
Matthews
the Chargers.
And DeMarco. Oh yeah,
yes.
I was on board.
I was all on board with Sam Bradford for that, and then he stunk.
We knew what happened. Yeah, if preseason isn't the example of never read into what happens there, don't look at records, don't look at how players play. Like the expectations could not be further off. Who
do you guys think will be the biggest draft bust? Oh man.
These are some good questions. Did we ask who we think will be the best? I know, like in terms of who the grades are, but did we
Will
answer
Anderson
it?
Answer it?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think that I'm gonna say this, and this will probably be the worst take of all time, but I'm gonna say Tyree Wilson. I don't think right now, but I think that as the tape shows over the several years, we will look back and say Tyree Wilson. The potential, what all the scouts and all the mock drafts are saying about him is that he's got so much potential, and he probably has a little bit more work and development than some of these other players immediately. But I don't know. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Tyree Wilson. Obviously, who knows, but that's who I would say today.
Okay, this is interesting because this is my buddy, Matt Johnston. This is the guy who actually did the intro to my show. He did a great job for it. The Thomas Macho intro is done by Matt Johnston, good friend of mine from Baylor. He's a Cowboy fan, though, and he works for the Dallas Mavericks. So he has a really cool job. But he just did a $1 super chat donation, but in classic Cowboy fashion, he meant to type something with that. He meant to say, "We them boys," because he's a Cowboy fan. He couldn't figure out how to do it, so he typed nothing. But he does get one entry into the jersey giveaway. Now, if he actually wins, can we pick somebody else or will he sue us? I think, I mean, are we going to send him a jersey? He's not going to wear it, but he technically has one entry in there, right?
Yeah, technically. I mean, that's the way it works. I don't think we looked at the fine print on how this works whenever something like that occurs. But
if we randomly spin and it's him, just quickly hit spin again and don't say anything, okay? Because there's no way I'm sending him a
share that one. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, hang on. We got technical difficulty. It's not him. It's actually Tyler Wallace. Okay. Goodness gracious. This guy says, gosh, DRC was ass. Yeah, he was really bad. Bigger immediate impact, Carter or Bijan? Probably Bijan, but that's tough. That's tough.
I feel like probably Bijan, but both I think could have a very big impact. But yeah, you're taking a running back like this that everybody's super high on and what he can provide. He could hit the ground from day one, and I don't think have any issues. You're changing the offense.
I totally forgot that we got a first-round draft pick for Sam Bradford. Wow. How about this? September 3rd, 2016 at 3:36 a.m. The Vikings gave up a first-round pick in 2017, a fourth in 2018. That could become a third, a massive price to pay for about to one season of work. The Eagles paid Bradford's $11 million base salary and then sent him to, wow. I forgot it was the Vikings. I was in college when this happened. Who did we get in the 2017 first round Eagles pick? Who did we get with the Bradford pick? I don't even know. Was it Derek Barnett? Derek Barnett. And then who was next? This is all Derek Barnett. Who was after Derek Barnett? I don't remember. I'm trying to pull it up here. My computer obviously doesn't want me to back out of this. 2017 Eagles draftees. Oh, this was the Sidney Jones year. Barnett, Jones, Rasul Douglas, Mac Hollins. This is actually Rasul Douglas and Mac Hollins actually turned out to be pretty decent. I remember I was all on the Donnell Pumphrey train, and he turned out to stink. Nathan Gary turned out to be pretty decent because he changed to linebacker, and Elijah Qualls. He was a backup for a while. That wasn't a terrible draft. Although Barnett's back this year. We'll see.
I think people forget about Barnett a little bit. It's like he's just the injury and other names, signings, everything else. It's like he could be back and make an impact. I think he could surprise. It's not like we're asking him to be insane or crazy. Just don't make the mistakes. Don't make the boneheaded plays. Like he's done in the past. Just be that rotational guy, somebody that we can count on for 15 snaps a game. Maybe I don't know what you play him as necessarily, but just make a little bit of an impact. Don't try to do too much. I think that was his issue. He tried to do too much, then he makes mistakes, gets some penalties.
Matt Johnson says he'll burn the jersey on his own live stream. Oh, jeez. Someone said send him a Kevin Cobb jersey. There you go. That's what I'll do. I'll buy him an Eagle jersey. It'll be off eBay. That'll be it.
That would be great.
Can you buy a Kevin Cobb jersey on eBay? Does it exist? I think I was in middle school when we traded Bradford. Yeah, I was in my bed in college, and I was like, what? I was at the 2017 NFL draft. I wanted to cook so bad in round 2. Oh, I wanted to cook Dalvin. I did too. I wanted Dalvin Cook really badly. Really badly.
I did as well.
Favorite Eagle of all time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Wow, how do you pick? Who was somebody that I really didn't like?
Maybe Chip Kelly.
I was a believer in Chip Kelly the first year.
I was a believer.
I thought they were going to get Marcus Mariota and make it like Oregon 2.0. And then who was my least favorite Eagle? I remember Cullen Jenkins during the Dream Team Dream Team signing. I thought he was going to be really good. He stunk. I was like, this guy's trash. Orlando Scandrick says somebody. Yeah, that could work. I'm trying to think. Riley Cooper. Cooper was, on the field. Let's preface this. On the field, Riley Cooper wasn't bad.
I was going to say.
On the field.
You can make an argument there, but there's other reasons, where I could definitely say that he was one of the least favorites.
Murray. Yeah, DeMarco Murray was
rough. I might say DeMarco.
He was rough.
That was one of those that, very similar to the whole Ezekiel Elliott rumor of him coming to Philly. It's like, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
I felt like we had. And once we got DeMarco, I was hoping he was going to be successful just to stick it to the Cowboys, but I was already kind of skeptical. It's like, he's kind of already, he's done what he's going to do. And we're getting this kind of leftovers really. And I didn't really love it. And then obviously we saw how it played out. So that could be one of them. It could be
Byron Maxwell was awful because we gave him so much money. And someone said the corner from the Dream Team, Nnamdi Asomugha. I thought Nnamdi Asomugha was going to be... Nnamdi Asomugha was so weird because he had such good numbers with the Raiders, but when you look back, no one ever threw his way. They just didn't throw his way. And then they threw at him in Philly, and he stunk. Bradley Fletcher, that's a good one, too. Vince Young. See, my thought about Vince Young is the night game against the Giants that he won for us. That was the one that I remember.
Yeah.
Hey, Thomas
he's
Josh.
saying coined the Dream Team. I've seen Andrew
saying
that's probably another one. You never want overhype before the season.
Thomas and Josh, would you spend a draft pick on Malik Cunningham? No, I wouldn't. I don't think that they will either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Do we forget that Miles Sanders said the word Dream Team this past offseason and they went to the Super Bowl?
He did say that.
Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It's just, it's probably just the fact that, Vince Young says it and it's all this hype and expectation, and then you see what happens. So, yeah, if it had been a different season, we probably would have not thought twice about it.
The offensive lineman that they drafted, the offensive lineman that they drafted, I'm blanking on his name. His draft picture hangs in the Baylor indoor practice field.
Really?
Because he's yes, it's up there because he's technically who was that? What was his name? Who in the chat remembers the firefighter we drafted? He was like 50 years old who just stunk. Eagles firefighter draft pick. Who was that? Danny Watkins. That's right. But Danny Watkins did go to Baylor from 2019 to 2010, and his picture hangs in the Baylor practice field on the wall. It's massively blown up because he's a Baylor top 10 or first round draft pick.
I did not know that. Danny Watkins.
He transferred to Baylor after head coach Art Briles was impressed with his game tape. Watkins started left tackle at junior for 20 for the Bears. He replaced Jason Smith, who was drafted overall by the Rams. How long was he? He was only an Eagle for like a year. Here it is. 27th overall draft pick. Oldest first-round selection at 20. Goodness gracious. How did Howie do this? First Canadian to be drafted in the first round of both the CFL and NFL drafts. Eagles claimed Kevin Devan off waivers from the Colts for the start of the season, and Watkins was benched. Inactive the first 2 weeks of the season. Active for week 3, but did not play. Did he ever play? He was promoted to starting right guard on October 5th due to the ineffectiveness of Devan through the first 4 games of the season. Watkins was released in 2013 and never played. Oh, he signed with the Dolphins and was a backup. Wow. How did they get that one so wrong? That seems like impossible that Howie would do that.
I know. Yeah, looking back at that, 26 years old, like that's just, I guess, thankful he's learning from those experiences probably. He mentions learning all the time, and he's once he makes a mistake. He said it in his New Heights podcast interview with Jason Kelsey, but he was saying like, hey, if I make a mistake, I got to make up for it like fivefold. So I'm sure that was one of them. Like, we got to make something happen now.
2014. Marcus Smith played from 2014 to 2018. He was a Seahawk and a Redskin too. I forgot about that. Marcus Smith, yeah. You got to hit on those first round draft picks. That's crazy. What a crazy walk down memory lane, though. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, Marcus Smith was a late first rounder. He was taken 26th. Jeez, that feels it's just crazy. Crazy.
That is.
Career sack, 6.5. Made it for the Reagor pick for real. Yeah, he has made it for the Reagor pick. You can tell that the A.J. Brown trade was like, hey, guys, hey, I'm sorry. Here's A.J. Brown. And then we all forget about Reagor, or at least we try to, right?
Mm-hmm. What could have been?
What could have been? Could have been. All right, a couple more questions here, and then I got to jump. I have another work call at 9 p.m. tonight. Wednesdays, for whatever reason, people want to talk to me from overseas, so I have a 9 o'clock call tonight. It was going to be very fun. 5 more questions. Josh Huff. Yeah, Josh Huff was very annoying. Just ask me random draft stuff. I'm old and remember it, says the Latin Inferno. Yeah. One has to go. Nick Sirianni, Doug Peterson, Andy Reid. Come on. How do you do that?
Really?
You would have to do... The Doug stuff was so weird to me because I couldn't tell whose fault it was. It felt like it was the front office that didn't like Doug, but it felt like it was Doug not liking Carson Wentz. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So how do you get rid of Doug when you won a Super Bowl? And Andy's Andy.
I don't think you can.
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't want to answer that question.
Doug's got a statue outside the stadium. You can't get rid of Doug. Mm-hmm. But Andy's was there for so long, and yeah, that's really a very tough question.
Here's a great question. Unfair. Which combo pick for 10 and 30? Carter and Gibbs or Bijan and Kancey? How do you do that? You would take Bijan and Kancey because you like Bijan and Kancey, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yep. I would take those.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with either, but
either one.
I'm taking Bijan and Kancey.
Doug had burnout. Well documented. True. I say Reed, Peterson, one of us, championship. Nick has to get us another. Yeah, I mean, we got to see what Sirianni does for the rest of his career. Hey, Josh and Thomas, great show. Happy birthday, a day early. Mine is draft day. As much as I wanted Jalen Carter, you have me wanting Bijan for my birthday. Thanks, says Frank. Frank, happy early birthday. Is almost your birthday. Draft day for the birthday is very good.
And hopefully you get Bijan.
David Dorsey says Bijan and Kancey. I mean, you can't go wrong with. I mean, I would say Carter and Gibbs because I think Carter is better than Kancey, and I think that it's a much further gap between Kancey and Carter than it is between Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. That's my take, but come on.
The funny thing is, if you look at it, our most recent mock drafts, mine was Bijan and Kancey in the first round.
That's right. Mine was Carter and Gibbs.
So we already have that debate and argument going on.
That's funny.
You can't go wrong with either. I agree. I think either one is a great first round.
Yeah, that's very, very hard to pick. Very, very hard to pick. Oh, man. All right. I think that's plenty for tonight. We went even a little bit over here on a Wednesday Link Live. We have 3 more Wednesday Link Lives up until the 26th, and we will be live on the 26th on Wednesday, and then we're going to be live the 27th, Thursday, for night 1 of the draft. That will be a 5-hour stream because the draft is insanely long. The first night, it will be crazy. There will be bathroom breaks. It's going to be a ton of fun. And then Friday, we will obviously be live again for round 2, which is a little bit quicker, but still very, very fun. We will not be live for Saturday because you'll be asking Josh and I to break down players we do not know who they are or how good they are, and we're not going to pretend like we say, oh my gosh, this 7th round tackle is the best guy I've ever seen. What a steal. Okay, we'll say.
And I'll be on a flight.
And Josh will be on a flight, so it's not possible. But we appreciate you guys watching tonight. Everyone who got their donations in for the jersey giveaway, we have you written down. And of course, there's still time for you to get those in coming up the next couple of weeks. Be sure to sub to Josh's show, my show, and support the channel. Thumbs up every time you watch one of our shows is huge. And hit the notification bell. That would be absolutely fantastic. It helps both of our channels grow at incredible rates. We appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next week. See you guys.